All right, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's movie, the big one. It's one of the most talked movies about this past weekend. And the tagline for this movie goes like this: Beyond fear, destiny awaits. What do you think about that?
My tagline is read the books before watching.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Stay onto your seat because MovieByte starts now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new and another weekly episode of MovieByte Podcast. I
And
am
a new
your
movie.
host.
I think we rarely do that.
Oh yeah, the new movie.
New
Why
movie.
are you
Sorry,
interrupting me in the middle of our
I'm already.
introduction?
Go. My bad.
I am your host, Ruben,
Yes, you are.
and the bastard right next to me is the
Yeah.
Russian who interrupted me. How you doing today,
I
bro?
mean, I'm already starting.
You're already on the streak. I mean,
I'm already on a streak. Like this is the movie that I wanted to watch for so long, but after I watched it, I dreaded to have this conversation with you ever since. Because yeah,
all right. So,
it's an event. So
so obviously, like he mentioned, we're doing a new movie. This week, we're gonna be talking about Dune, the 2021 version. Directed by Mr. Denis Villeneuve, a French director who has done amazing films, including Blade Runner 2049, which is one of Russians and my top favorite movies.
yeah.
We both really enjoyed his artwork, his film work, I meant, and he's done movies like Arrival, Sicario, Prisoners, Incendies, which is his first French film. And many other works, and he's a magnificent. All right. So I believe you picked this movie under the category of directors, right?
Writer director.
Writer director. All right, perfect.
I felt like this was gonna be a good way for Villeneuve to shine, to get his writer director credits, to have the passionate project of his, which he wanted to make since he was 14 years old. As apparently it's the book that he read as a kid, and then fell in love with the all. Uh, the ecosystem of that universe, and he wanted to make the movie, and at the same time he started to be interested in directing. So that's how these two things that came to fruition, and I was really really looking forward to watch this, and I did twice, and
All right. Well, we'll let the
let's
audience hear
let's
your
start easy.
opinion. Yeah.
um,
But before we begin, let's talk about a little bit of movie details, obviously. So, for those who don't know, Dune is one of the many movies that got affected by the pandemic last year. It was supposed to be released October of last year. Because of COVID, they delayed the release to December, and then HBO and Warner Brothers pretty much announced that this movie was going to be part of the same day theater and streaming release from their slate for 2021. Something that Mr. Denis Villeneuve was not too fond of, because he has stated in multiple interviews that this movie is meant to be seen in theaters. It was shot with IMAX cameras. It is a spectacle that is meant to be in theaters, and he was on the fence on it. At some point, HBO and Warner Brothers were teasing the idea that the movie was just going to be if things were better with the pandemic, they were going to change everything and just make it a theater release only, exclusively for 45 days, and then put it on the streaming platforms. But that never went into production as far as ideas goes, and they just made a deal with Mr. Villeneuve where they pay him, like, I think extra or a percentage of the like the viewerships and the box office returns to compensate any loss in revenue, right? So as far as box office numbers goes for this movie, it just opened up this past weekend, and it actually exceeded expectations for Warner Brother. It opened up at $41 million in the box office weekend, establishing a pandemic record for Warner Brothers on their same day, same streaming release records. Right, it was previously held by Godzilla vs King Kong at 31 million. Dune beat them by an extra 10 million. Worldwide, this movie has grossed already about $221 million. It has made a chunk of its money on overseas market, international theaters and overseas, out of a budget of 165 million. Okay, so nothing yet. The movie it's supposed to be a two-parter. Not HBO, Warner Brothers still has not greenlit the second part. They are waiting for official HBO Max numbers for them to see if it justifies greenlighting a sequel. But a lot of analysts and people that are in this industry are very hopeful and optimistic that it will get greenlight and we'll be seeing the second part of this film. All right. As far as competition, when this movie is released, nothing really competed with them, other than movies like Halloween Kills, who was already dominating the box office. Different fan base, and obviously you had No Time to Die, the latest and last film of Daniel Craig as James Bond, as his competition, and the movie still managed to finish at the number one spot. And it's due mostly to the large fan base and cult following that this film and book has. It's we'll go deeper into this, but I believe it's a movie that was meant to be seen by the fan base. I think Denis Villeneuve made it as a fan, and it's meant to be seen for the fans. And we'll talk more about that. So let's talk about the director, Mr. Denis Villeneuve. Let's talk about him.
I mean, he's one of my favorite directors who's making movies these days. Like, as you mentioned, Blade Runner is my go-to if I want to see the beauty of cinematography. Roger Deakins did cinematography for that movie, and that movie looks spectacular. It's probably top 5 best looking movies ever made. And if you have a good TV, I mean, it just makes sense to watch it on an OLED. Sicario is outstanding when it comes to storyline. I think Prisoners has such a great character developments and such a great performances that he created. It's one of my best as well. Arrival, when it comes down to the twists and turns and the storytelling, right there you have Arrival under his belt. And in Cities, just like we talked a few days before, if you want to watch a movie and never watch it again because how disturbing it is, that's his first movie. And I compare it to Requiem for a Dream. You do not want to rewatch that movie. And now we are here. We are out at the doorsteps of his masterpiece. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to call it a masterpiece. A lot of people already have. It got critical appraisal, but it got audience appraisal even more, which nowadays is probably more important because we don't really care about critics, what they say. We care about what our peers experience and what they say to us. Yeah. And it's 8.3 on IMDb, which is really high. I mean, they have like already almost 200,000, I guess, people who rated the movie. I believe it's like 95 audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yep.
So the movie is being welcomed by the critics and the audience. It made money. So I think like we're going to have the second part. And I'm sure a lot of people are excited about it because this is Dune Part 1 and it abruptly ends and the credits start rolling where you're like, wait, this is just where the story kind of like picks up. This is where we go into like something, nice and juicy, although it's been 2.5 hours. That's how long the first part is.
Yep.
When it comes down to the visuals and when it comes down to the director, this movie is gorgeous. It's you can take every shot by shot and just make it into your wallpaper gallery. They are all masterfully crafted. The scale is, I mean, to me, it's actually I look at the the world that he created, and it feels so massive. It feels like to the magnificent scale where some of the movies fail to uh, to get to that, because you see the CGI cities and you're like, oh fuck it,
Yeah.
it's CGI. So like, or if you see something which is being bloated on a screen, which like it's a little tiny model, but it makes you feel like, or tries to look like something enormous. Here, when you see that harvester, it feels huge. It feels like it's a 10-story building on wheels, harvesting this thing called spice. Every shot is just, I mean, I was mesmerized when I was watching the filmmaking, the craftsmanship that this movie has. I was blown away. Like there's nothing you can deny that Villeneuve is one of the masterful directors of all times. Like I think him and Nolan, two can kind of go punch for punch in a 12-round match, but there's nobody else who can come close to that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Mr. Denis Villeneuve. I mean, I've seen pretty much every film that he's done for the U.S. I have not seen the Incendies yet. I do want to see it, but I do remember seeing Prisoners in theaters, and it's an amazing story. And then Sicario again, and then we have Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, which is it's a sequel to the Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. And what I love about this director, he's an amazing storyteller. And I was watching today, like looking into like interviews and research for the show, and a lot everybody just compares him. He's a shower instead of a teller. He'll tell you a story, but he will be visual about that story. He'll use the scene. He'll use the nature of the scene. He'll give you cues for you to go along with the story, and not have to rely on like narration or on dialogue. And this is something that you clearly see very deep in this movie, because this movie, like Dune, is like reading Game of Thrones. Okay, I'm almost finishing the book, and the book has so many layers. We're talking about clans and houses, and it's very similar to what George R. Martin did for Game of Thrones. It's a series of books, but there's so many that you can put into a movie, and that was the problem that David Lynch had in 1984 when he made Dune. That he tried to cram so much of the book into a 2 hour and a half movie that it doesn't work. The movie has its own cult following, but it doesn't work, and this is why Denis Villeneuve wanted to do with this movie is that he has stated in multiple interviews he would have not signed on for this movie if part 2 wasn't going to be made. So he is also optimistic that part 2 will be made, and he will at least conclude the first book of the Dune saga. But it's just the way that he tells you a story, and like, I get it. A lot of people may not understand at the first watch what's going on because how the characters are introduced. Right? We'll discuss that deeper into the episode today. But it comes to a point that you're so into the movie that you start getting the hang of it. And I believe this is the type of movie, like you and I were talking before we went live, that the more times you watch it, you start getting more details and more facts into it. And I think that's the purpose of Villeneuve in his direction in this movie.
I mean, like you touched on the Dune previously made by Lynch, and when every time the concept of making that movie comes up, there are two philosophies about it. They always say that if you make it into the movie, it's gonna be too short to make sense, or it's gonna be too long to be made. Because in when you put everything from the pages to the screenplay and to the drawing board, you're gonna have like 10-15 hour movie, like even cutting a lot of stuff out.
Yeah,
So therefore, like to me, making at least two parts, 2.5 each, like 5-hour movie for the first book, it seems doable, right, on
yeah,
paper. But that's when I start having a conflict with what I'm watching on a screen as a somebody who never read a single page of this original content. and
Gotcha.
and the movie was the book was written in 1965, right? So
1965 by Mr. Frank Herbert.
yeah, so it's been a long time, and a lot
Yeah.
of people could have tried to make it. Obviously, successful one attempt was by David Lynch. Never, I have not seen that movie. The only my contact with Dune universe is like the game from 1998, which
Mm.
I absolutely loved, and I hated them worms. They always come from you harvesters, and fucking worms. Like
The
yeah,
sandworms, yeah.
the sandworms. Yeah, always came for your harvesters, and that was like the if you don't get them off the ground in time, oh boy, you lose all your spice and stuff. Yeah, I hated them. But now look at them. I mean, their face looks like a forbidden butthole.
Yeah, I saw
Like
that. I saw that comment on Reddit.
yeah, like that's something I'm gonna take and run by because that was the best way to describe the fucking worm.
I think my wife said something similar too when we were watching it the other night. It was funny.
Um,
Uh, I mean, and you bring the book to connection, and like this is a book written in 1965 or 64, right? You said
65. Yep.
65. So, and this book, like this drew inspiration to many, many movies we have nowadays in sci-fi, including
Oh yeah,
Star Wars. Like George
absolutely.
Lucas, Star
Like
Wars, like ideas come from
yeah,
this.
you can see it. Like here, you use voice. They use force. Like
Yeah,
it's like
like
just
you have the main protagonist, a loner looking for a purpose in his life. You know, he is believed to be the Messiah, the chosen one to
right.
lead a tribe, and exactly that's what Star Wars is. You know, you got Luke Skywalker who's bringing balance to the Force. So George Lucas has a lot of inspiration in Dune, and other artists out there and movie
I
makers
mean,
have
you
drew
mentioned Game
inspiration.
of Thrones, like that.
Hmm.
I'm sure J.J. Martin was like, "Hey, I can turn this the battle of the houses for the power into the medieval scenario, bring some
Yeah,
dragons, and
and
boom, you got Game
yeah,
of Thrones." Right?
exactly. Because I mean, sandworms are like the dragons of Game of Thrones for Dune, pretty much. You know, they
Right.
have this mythological creature, and Game of Thrones, you got the dragons, and Dune has the sandworms.
Yep. All right. So
So,
moving forward,
casting, acting. Let's talk
acting.
about this ensemble casting. It
Let's
has
talk about it.
magnificent actors in it.
Absolutely phenomenal cast. Like every name on this list, like when you go down, Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, like David Bautista, Charlotte Rampling. Like this cast is just fucking all-star team, right? Like you go into the movie and you're like, I am gonna watch like Rembrandt. I am gonna see the Mona Lisa, the creation of Mona Lisa, right?
Hmm.
And you go into here and you watch it and you get blown away by magnificent performance of these guys. Like I'm 100% sure the people who like casually go to movies are gonna be just swept off their feet by the huge cast, by the strong cast, by the everybody who like out there putting their weight, putting their work into the characters, no doubt.
Absolutely.
But here comes the first grenade. Uh,
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we
Just
go.
just 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 hear me out, okay? So I've seen Oscar Isaac in better roles than this, and I've seen him doing better job than this. Okay, I've seen
Can
him.
you name one example just for the audience? I believe you, and I'll probably
Right.
gonna agree with you. But for the audience, like, name one role that you can think of that is better.
So I mean, if I have to go and now like I'm gonna be on top of my head, just the Inside Louis Davis, horrible
Okay.
movie. For example, the Most Violent Year, like horrible movie but great performance. Our Ex Machina, like he's fantastic. Like even in a freaking Star Wars, he's like he's great in Star Wars, but like
I
I
think the
just
first
like
time I saw Oscar Isaac was in Sucker Punch. No, Robin Hood with Ridley Scott. That was the first time I ever saw him in a movie.
I mean, yeah, like Sucker Punch, he's a
Yeah.
great villain in it. So the only thing that I can compare him here to, well, not compare, but I'm just saying like that X Men garbage that he did. Yeah, that
Apocalypse, X Men
yeah,
Apocalypse.
that,
Yeah.
that was pretty bad. All
Yeah.
right, this is my first one. Okay, Second one is Josh Brolin is just fucking playing Josh Brolin. Like, like at this point, like he's just like it's me smiling. Like look, every single shot, he's fucking the same facial expression, right? Like look, like you keep going shot by shot, and it's the same expression.
Yeah.
Like through the entire movie, he's like, "I'm the badass." Like boom, like get these ships off the ground. Let's go
So
fight. And
before you continue, let me ask you this: do you think that, like, you're talking about like their performances because of their characters, right? But you haven't read the book. Do you feel like maybe that would have changed your perspective if you read the book and you'd have seen what these characters do in the book?
possibly.
Okay.
But I'm,
Because I
I'm
can tell you, like, they don't have Gunnar and Duke Leto in the book. Like what they bring to the book is pretty much what you see in the movie.
all right. Well, and I'm gonna say that probably I wouldn't like the book either. That,
Like, let's be like the book is about Paul Atreides. That's mostly what the book is about.
sure. And like that's the guy who like probably does the best out of everybody when it comes down to the pure talent. But
Mhm.
his performance in The King is much more deeper in a sense of like acting range to me than what he does here. All right. Rebecca Ferguson can't fucking act like to save her last. Like I and I know like again unpopular opinion. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna be like,
So
"What's she talking about?"
you don't like any movie that Rebecca Ferguson has done.
Yeah, I thought I did. Like the showman was great, and then I started like looking at her like cast, and she was in a Doctor Sleep, which was fucking garbage. She was in a not James Bond, but the fucking follow
Mission Impossible
Mission
movies.
Impossible movies, where you just have to be good looking and just say yes to Tom Cruise, like to be in
Yeah.
those movies. And I don't want to get mad. Like those,
Well, I think Rebecca Ferguson's like highlight of her career comes from the TV show that she did for Stars, the White
I,
Princess, I think it's called, or the English Princess, something like that.
I just feel like she was not cast right for this role. Like there's hundreds of actresses who could have played the better. Like Amy Adams, like fucking take her. Like even though she's in every second movie, but like she could have been.
But what do you think is how like the portrayal of the character is what
Like
you're
she's
basing
just
this
stands
off?
on. She's just on the screen. Like, and the few emotions that she kind of like has, I just don't buy it. Like when she stands behind the door.
She's not supposed to have emotions. That's why.
Spoiler alert. Right, and she does when she stands outside of that room when the Paul goes through the test and her like little whispering and her like crying, and I'm like, I mean, I understand you're the mother, but you're like this.
You can call them witches.
I was gonna
Yeah.
try to remember the word that she used before.
The Bene Gesserit.
Bene
Bene
Gesserit. I'm
Gesserit.
like
Yeah.
you like at the end of the line. You are based on what I gather, you get married to like high lords and high people in the society in the hierarchy of this political spectrum, so you can influence like you're keen to take over this shadowy way. Which I was like, it's really cool. Let's go with that, and then it just fucking disappears outside of the movie. But that's we're gonna get to the plot of it.
It's
Um,
similar in the book.
okay,
Yeah.
so I'm just saying, and I'm sure like everybody else has different opinion, and they're gonna love it, and that's what I'm saying. My opinion on this movie is unpopular, and I do not think that anybody gonna agree with me, and that's why I don't want to do this. Like I don't want to tell my opinion because like
I
everybody's
mean,
gonna be
this is
like,
why we have this, so people can listen to you and they can disagree with you or
yeah,
tell you that they agree.
yeah, just tell me to shut the fuck up, Russian. You don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. We loved them in everything that they
Yeah.
do.
I
And I'll
mean,
be like,
you like Gravity. I don't like Gravity, and we talked about this.
the two people who I've really enjoyed here is Stellan Skarsgård. His portrayal of the Baron, just
The
like
Baron. Mm-hmm.
pure evilness, pure like this. I'm a garbage person, but I'm wealthy as hell, and I have a fuck, and I don't have no hair, and I'm in space. You know, like it resembles somebody I know in real life. But um, him, Jason Momoa, like he was.
Oh yeah, I
I did not
love
I did
Duncan,
not
Idaho.
see him as a Aquaman. I felt like he brought he was trying to be on par with all this stardom,
Yeah.
on the set, and he actually succeeded. Like that's the person I
Yeah.
would go to, and I'm like, I enjoyed his acting. Like he was
I,
good.
I agree. I agree with this with that one with you. I think
I,
you don't see Aquaman in his performance in this
no,
movie.
Xavier Bardem is Xavier Bardem. Like he's that guy. Like I just like honestly when then him and Josh Brolin was on a screen on a set on a scene together, and then Josh
Hmm.
Brolin pulls up the gun, and I'm like, they got not the gun. Sorry, they don't have guns here. Which is why they don't have guns. I don't understand. But like he pulls up the sword, and I'm like, I wish he would be like something for like this is for No Country for Old Men and just stabs him in the neck, you know. But but yeah, like I feel most of the Stardom cast just showed up on the set and walked the line because they they are fucking big names, and some of them had to work. Dave
Yeah, I mean,
Bautista like shows up for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, I like the guy. Like I like him here. I liked him in Blade Runner 2049.
mhm.
Uh, he's funny in the Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel like he's given the roles where he can pull off very well.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to add to all your thing, and I understand your opinion, and I respect it. So I'm not gonna like fight you on that. Um, but this is what like you should know, and I know I may not change your opinion. Okay, but so the point of all of these characters that are introduced in this movie, they're going to have a bigger role or essence in the second part, and this is
Most of them
something
are
that
dead. How? Oh, oh. If you okay, so if you don't see them die on the screen, they did not die.
exactly.
Okay.
So like this is something that the director does on purpose. He wants you to focus just on Paul. He wants you to feel like Paul and go along this ride with Paul. So that's why this first part of the movie it's all about Paul Atreides, who is played again from by the magnificent Timothée Chalamet, who's actually going to be playing Willy Wonka in the upcoming prequel that they're currently in production. And he's a terrific actor. Like you mentioned, The King, he was phenomenal in that role. One of the first roles I ever saw him was in the season 1 of the TV show Homeland with Claire Danes and Mr. Damian Williams. I think that's his name. Homeland. He played a politician's son, and he was pretty good in that. In a couple of episodes he was in. Like the first part just focuses on Paul, and that's why like Lady Jessica, no, she doesn't really have that much into the movie, and it's something that the director did on purpose because he wants you to just enjoy the ride with Paul because all of these characters that were introduced are going to show up at a higher scale in the second one. We're gonna see more of the Baron. You know, obviously, like you mentioned, the Baron just gets introduced. He has a couple of minutes of screen time in total, but they're very pivotal, important scenes, you know, because it's where like the whole plot starts boiling down when he reveals his master plan and everything, and you know how evil he is. And again, you have like you mentioned the Baron. There's one character that's in the book that they haven't introduced yet, and he's pretty much very important too. And it's the nephew of the Baron, which in the David Lynch version was portrayed by Sting.
Isn't Dave Bautista's? Isn't he the nephew? He calls him uncle. But
Yes, but it's not that character.
oh, there's another one.
Yeah, yeah. Dave Bautista's character is called Raban the Beast, and he does play a big part in the book, and he is supposed to play something bigger in the second part too. So all of these characters are being introduced because they are going to be important to the story for the second part, including Zendaya, who plays Chani, who is very, very important in the second half of the book. Because she is part of Paul's vision, and she pretty much is like the part of the prophecy, and she is the voice that you hear at the beginning of the movie. And Shani plays a very, very important part in the book, and she's going to be heavily focused on the second part of the movie if it gets greenlighted.
It's gonna get green lighted. Like
I'm pretty sure it is. It is.
they made a lot of money. Everybody loves it. It's gonna be green lighted.
I think they're just hoping with that, like you said, like that word of mouth, and people start like maybe people who saw it in theaters now are gonna be like, oh well, let me watch it at home now.
If you wanna like, this is the fucking brilliant trick. If you wanna watch how this movie ends, you better like it. You better fucking give like the IMDb 9 out of 10 rating if you wanna see the second part. You better fucking sign up for HBO or go and buy a movie ticket even if you're not gonna go to it. Like,
I agree. Yeah,
would-
anybody that's watching us or listening to us, like hit play on that thing all the times you want. That helps to move forward with the second part. I want
Like
to watch the second part. I'm
I
looking
don't,
forward to the second
I
part.
don't, I don't give a fuck
You're
about
going to watch it.
Dude, I'm gonna go in to watch like every single show that Netflix greenlights. I'm not gonna be fucking proud of it, but somebody has to seek for garbage to find the gems.
Maybe the second part is the one that you're like, you know what? The
Maybe,
second part fixed it
maybe
for me.
by that time I watched so many of the first parts that I would be like
It,
so
it
numb to the all the flops that they made that I would be
You'll be
like,
like the Grinch. Your heart
yeah,
will grow 3 sizes big.
yeah, that's not gonna happen. But it's always good to dream. Um, another thing, like I wanted to kind of mention the Charlotte Rampling playing that the high priestess of
Mm-hmm. The mother, yeah,
the main witch.
yeah.
Like she's spook. Like to me, her performance was like even I was more afraid of her, like afraid in a sense of like she
Mm-hmm.
more intrigues me as a villain than Skarsgård, because you don't know with her what's her motivation is or what's her power is, and she's like, put your hand in the fucking
On the
box.
box,
Like,
yeah.
what's in the box? The pain, and like if the like that's my favorite scene there. And the second favorite scene when she's talking to the Baron and she's like, kill everybody but leave the
Lady Jessica
leave the
and Paul,
Jessica
yeah.
and her kin alive. Like she's like I like her character and I wish like there will be more about them. And honestly, like my only thought when I was watching this movie was like, why couldn't you make it in a TV show like Game of Thrones? Why couldn't you make like 5 seasons of this? And I know your answer to it, and I know my answer to it. Like he would never sign off to do that because it's too much commitment for the genius as he is. But on
Mm-hmm.
the other hand, I was like, you making me watch this where I know you could have been doing with your same artistic magic something that I would have enjoyed. So the reason I hate this, not hate, I hate is a big word. The reason why I was not satisfied with this movie is because of the selfish reason. Because I was like, you putting
You
Villeneuve,
you hyped yourself too much for this movie.
not only that, like no, like it's
You overhyped this
no.
movie for
Listen,
yourself.
this movie is a love letter from Denis Villeneuve to his source material, right? Well, I don't give a fuck about source material, so it's like I never met the girl. Like I don't care like how much you love her, right? I can't get on board of you giving so much attention and so much praise and so much detail and to something that I know not enjoying. And that's my biggest regret is being like I'm not part of this of this group of people liking it. And that's I understand you guys. Like I see the love, I see how magnificent it is, I see the brilliance of it, but I'm gonna be start taking apart some of the plots and just as we go along, and maybe I'll draw somebody to the dark side of mine. Maybe somebody will be like, you know what, Russian, I love this movie until I saw the dark side of you. Um,
Fair
so
enough.
yeah, moving forward.
So, let's talk about like, the screenplay. I do want to talk about the music. I mean, we have the great Hans Zimmer, who actually turned down of composing Tenet so he could do this movie because this movie was always been a passion for him to compose for
Yep.
Dune and to work with director Denis Villeneuve again because they worked together for Blade Runner.
And like the music plays such a huge role in here, and I don't remember like any other movie where Villeneuve used soundtrack as much as he uses soundtrack here to kind of navigate you through the story.
Mm-hmm.
In a scene which I just kind of mentioned before, where Paul gets tested, either he has like animal instinct and choose his arm off in order to avoid pain, or just you know I don't know what the test is like to be a man and just kind of like
I think the test
kind of
because that's how the book begins is him doing the test, and in the movie they bring that like 15 minutes already into the movie.
okay.
But I think the test, if I'm not mistaken, it was to prove to prove the sisterhood or the witches or Bene Gesserit that he is most likely like the chosen one.
He chose no. But
Yeah.
uh, when the realization of him, what he has to do in order to survive, comes to his mind, that's when the music of that screaming, crying lady from the Middle East and whatever accent kicks in, and that music starts like rattling through your soundbar if you're in the movie theater for the. That just
Yeah.
like that's giving me chills. Like I was like, yes, this is so awesome. Unfortunately, that was the fucking highlight of the movie for me, and everything else just slowly and gradually faded to black. But I love that scene. It's a beautifully shot scene. It's a beautifully acted scene. It's magnificent, and it's worth seeing this movie just for that. I wouldn't recommend going to the movie theaters because I don't understand how people survive this for 2.5 hours. Like I couldn't. But God bless you all who spent $41 million.
We're supposed to promote the movie, so they greenlight the second part. So stop saying
You
that.
see, I don't want to see the second part. I'm
You
here.
deep down, you do.
I'm
Stop
here.
hating so much.
No, give him double the money to make something else.
No, we need the second part.
Give him to make the Arrival too. You know.
Why we need to watch Arrival 2? There's no
I mean,
point
it
of
would've-
making.
I know, but it would have been better than the
You
fucking.
might as well just make this a third Blade Runner at this point.
I'm in for that. Yes, please.
Yeah.
All right. Music is fantastic. Like Hans Zimmer is fucking Hans Zimmer. He's the man. Like, my only like thing is that we kind of expect it out of Hans Zimmer. So when I watched the movie and the music came in, I was like, oh, Hans Zimmer, thank you. Like I know it's you doing a great job. 2 thumbs up. It's not that it shakes you to the core. Like for example, the music in Joker. Like that soundtrack in Joker is just it's such a moving part of the movie, and it's so unique and so new. Here, it's like you still have the taste of Zimmer. I mean, it's related to Dune. Like if you take the soundtrack from Interstellar and you take the soundtrack from Dune, those are 2 different pieces. They're completely on a different level, even though like both movies technically happen in space or whatever in the different worlds. But it's he writes for his material. He writes for his source material, and that's what I enjoy it. Like the cinematography, the directions, the shots, the music. It's yeah, absolutely right. The soundtrack is extremely unique and experimental. Rashim, you nailed it.
That's a great way to describe the soundtrack of this film.
It is, and it works well. It works well with the movie. Like I got no objectives for those categories. That gets 10 out of 10 from my perspective. No complaints there.
I mean, for me, I was a little disappointed when I found out it wasn't Roger Deakins shooting this movie, because I always thought it was him based on what I saw in the trailers, and then
like,
some a Mike at work corrected me. He's like, "No, it's not Roger Deakins." I'm like, "Oh shit, who is it?" And I had to look it up, and it's the director of photography. He's done like Zero Dark 30, among other movies.
But I feel like the influence that he left on Villeneuve, like it just speaks loudly. Like he even says, like when we were doing Blade Runner, like I spent a year with Deakins to kind of coaching me to how he does his magic, and I think like that's what great directors or the great people just do. They just implement what's already been worked for years, and they take it and they stylize it in their visions and in their versions, and that's how that was done. So,
I mean, I think this movie's gonna be, when it comes to award season later this year, I can see this movie getting nominated for a lot.
everything.
Technical awards, director, cinematography. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but look at the competition. What the fuck we have? This is almost November. What do we have? Black Widow, Time to Die, No Time to Die, fucking Die Already. Like,
well, I mean, award season hasn't started yet. It only starts around November and December and January.
But still, like my top 3 favorite movies, nobody fucking even heard of.
Of this year?
Yes.
Which ones are they?
The Pig, Coda, and the Till Death. Like that's my top 3 best movies of this year. Like,
come on, bro. I mean, I'll give you Coda and I'll give you Pig, but you can't say Till Death.
I love Till Death. Fuck you. Like I watched.
Come on. I mean, it's a good movie. But
it's my guilty pleasure. I just
come
love
on.
the
Like Megan Fox ruins that movie.
She does, but it's like I know what I'm watching. Like it's like listen, when you
I can't believe you said
what
till death. I should just
listen,
kick you off the show.
okay, let's go. Because this is only gonna go worse. You better mute my mic. You better fucking cancel the
Oh
show.
God.
You'd be like, listen, when I'm hungry, right, and I don't want to go to fucking Panera Bread, or
Oh God. My wife
or
just texted me till death.
yes, I love that movie. Fuck you all. Um, listen, I grabbed the frozen food and I throw it in the microwave and like I'm okay. Like that's my go-to. Like I when I have nothing to watch, I pop in the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia for the 25th time, or I pop in Till Death, and I just watch
How
it
many
back
times have you seen till death since you bought
like
it?
10 maybe. Like
Are you for real?
yeah, bro. Like I'm just like it's so dumb. Like the more you watch it, like the dumber it gets.
I
It's
mean,
like
I liked it when I saw it, but not
no,
not for
like
me to watch it 10 times.
no, like it's one of those where you just like you go there and you're like, "Ah, let's ride this fucking elevator. Like I love it. Like and
All right. I mean,
and
hey,
you see like
you do
people who
you.
like yeah, you do you. And people will be like, if he likes Till Death, his opinion on this movie is invalid. He can't fucking talk to Dune if he saw like Till Death 10 times. And I agree with you. Like
Uh,
I agree with you guys. Like I'm not here to make any friends. I'm not here to get anybody on my side. I'm here to just gonna give you an opinion which is unpopular on what I saw in this movie, and it's because like it was like you stated, it was something that I looked forward and I wanted this to be incredible. I wanted this to be something magnificent, and it's like a if I have to compare this to like if I go and on a dating app and I'm like and I see somebody who looks like she's a 10 and I'm like you're a fucking 10 but the substance of it is like 2, like that's my take on Dune. Like there's
fair enough. I'll give you Coda. Out of the three you mentioned, I think Coda will be also nominated for some awards this
oh
year.
yeah, I mean Pig is not getting anything.
No, no.
Till Death is never going to be even mentioned anywhere.
Probably,
No, I mean
probably in the Razzies. You know the
yeah, probably.
yeah. But I'll give you Coda. Coda was a great film, and I can see getting it nominated. Yeah, especially for the performance of like all the deaf mutes in that movie. All right, so let's talk about the plot. Do you have any unpopular opinions regarding the plot?
Fucking my opinion from now on is going to be unpopular. Like, listen, like first let me just throw out a couple of the Chekhov guns, which they kind of used, but they never fucking came to fruition. And I was like the guy when the accountant of the family, the guy with like the lip thing,
Sophia Hawat.
whatever.
Yeah,
So the lord or the captain or whatever the fucking his name, the duke, Oscar
Duke
Isaac.
Leto. Yeah,
He's like, hey, listen, like how much did it cost him to come here to do the ceremony? And he's like, eyes roll up and he's like froze up this number and he like calculated it so quickly and I'm like, oh, that's a cool skill, like it's probably gonna come to play later on in the movie. Nope, it doesn't. It's just fucking something he does on occasion.
he does have a larger role in the book. I don't know how they're gonna use him in the movie, but that character in the book has a larger role. Yeah.
Well, I thought he died too. The second thing, like when it's about Gurney, who's played by Josh Brolin, like he's like, I could have killed you. He's like, I know your steps. Paul is like, I know your steps. I hear your steps, and it's kind of comes to play again when he mentions it while being saved from the Vision / Worm attack, but that never plays the role so far. Maybe in the second episode it's gonna happen. That him knowing the steps, how he sound, is gonna matter. All right, but now we're getting to the big fucking snake in it, or elephant. So the guy who does the fucking he's a human temperature meter. The guy who like has the star or the square on his
Doctor Yu.
All right, so he appears like twice in the movie
Mm-hmm.
before being revealed like he is a mastermind of betraying the whole fucking house, the whole planet. Like he's the reason why everybody gets killed.
Yeah.
And what? Like I was sitting there going, wait, who the fuck is this guy? Like what? And then he's like all this important. He's like, I'm gonna give you this tooth, and you're gonna fucking bite on it and kill the Baron.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, what is happening here? And it's like, oh, like they have hour and a half to kind of explain everything, but this part is never explained. And he's like, yeah, I have a wife who's gonna be saved because she's been taken apart, and she never shown. And then he gets his his throat cut.
Yeah.
All right, like
Again, it's the book has a larger piece of that.
sure, but fucking, I didn't get any of that
And
part.
you know, just to add it, it's like so in the book, Hawat, which is the old man that does the trick with the eyes. In the book, he actually thinks that Lady Jessica is the traitor, and he like captures her and starts interrogating her, and he believes that because the Baron implanted false information in his head to make him believe that Lady Jessica was the one that was going to betray the House of Atreides. That way, to blind him from finding out the truth that it was Dr. Ju who was betraying the house. Obviously, that's not shown in the movie.
Yeah,
But
like that's another hour of explanation. Like at
Yeah.
least,
Mhm.
you know. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you did not read the book and you go out there, and some of these motivations, some of these characters, what they do, I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And then like, me and one of our colleagues, Mike, like, well, he came up with this idea that the spider in the movie is actually the wife of this dude. And at first I was like, fuck no, that's impossible. And he's like, yeah, think about it. They were taking their limb by limb. And I'm like, okay, fuck you, Mike. But then like watching the second time, I'm like, you know what? I'm on board with this theory. Like, fuck it. From now on, that spider is his wife. Like, if you can prove me otherwise, sure, in books it is. But in a movie, I see the spider who's been like as a pet, whatever, and then I see this guy crying about his wife. So fuck it. Spider from now on is this dude's wife. Um, so there's that, and then the whole like Jason Momoa, like I'm gonna go in the corridor and die for all of us. That why? But maybe he's alive too. I don't know. Is he alive? Or is he dead?
No, he's dead.
He's dead. Okay, it was a heroic death.
Mhm.
Not necessary, but heroic. Uh, like I don't know. There's a lot of plot points which are hollow to me, and at the end, when we come to the conclusion, I'm like, it doesn't. I don't care. Like the one thing that this movie did not got me to do is to care about anybody. Even though our main character, he's lovable kid, but he does not have a Neo quality. Like I do not follow him as the Messiah. I do not see him as the one. And when like at the end he has to kill the dude, and in the prophecies like that's the guy who was like teaching him and all of that. And I'm like, I guess it's 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 a no dog for me. Like this this plot is just I did not care. I did not follow. I was not invested in it.
Gotcha.
It was a pretty pictures all around, but the whole thing is just resolved about a lot of things were happening, but none of them were connecting with me. Like Josh Brolin running with the sword fights when they have like lasers which cut down the entire city. I get. I mean, I buy that, but like, okay, why though? Like, is this how we're gonna fight these guys? Like with this fucking swords?
Yeah, I think you need to read the book.
No,
That's
I
my
ain't
conclusion to all this.
Yeah, all of this. Is like,
Well,
read the
let
book.
me know when you want to
No.
allow it. I'll give it to you.
So like that's the point. Like if I'm gonna read the book, why the fuck you made the movie? Like that's my bottom line. If I'm gonna read the book, I don't
So
need
the
you to make
book
the
came
movie.
before the movie, so
That's what I'm saying. This movie was not necessary to be made. Like there was no point of making this movie just to make it for the fans of the book.
like Lord of the Rings.
Again, fucking hate that shit. Another popular opinion. Yeah, like pitchforks, get them up. If any of the Lord of the Rings fans are here, that shit is boring. I fall asleep on it.
Oh
Like,
shit, they're gonna.
they're gonna
our,
go. They're gonna
our
fucking
podcast is over. We're done for. We're gonna lose subscribers.
subscribers, bitch. We're gonna fucking. I'm gonna lose my life tomorrow. Like people are gonna come out here. How dare you? Yeah, like Game of Thrones loved it until obviously the last season. But like, if you wanna make me invested, like make me invested. Make 10 seasons of Dune. I'm okay with that. I'll watch that. But I
Fair
could
enough.
not. I could not care for the part one, and I definitely ain't gonna give a shit about part two.
Well, he's still, ladies and gentlemen, he's still gonna watch it.
I watched. Listen. I watched Till Death 10 times. Like you can. You
I
cannot.
mean, I was just about to say that. You've seen Till Death 10 times. You're gonna watch part 2 of Dune.
That's all I am. Like I'm just a garbage collector. I collect all your garbage, and I save through it. And when I find a gem, I'll show it to you. This was not the find. This was just like, hey, it's out there. So to me, like my role into promoting this movie is zero. Everybody gonna just see it. Like so.
They're probably just gonna see it just to see what the fuck you're talking about. It's like, I need to see what he's talking about, and that's a win-win. We got you to watch it. That's all we wanted.
We got you to watch it and think for yourself. Don't go with the flow. Like don't be the one of those. Oh, I love that movie. Why? Because everybody says that they loved it. Like this scene where he fights the fucking people. Spoilers. It's actually a vision. It never fucking happens in the movie.
I mean, that's how trailers are made.
But I'm saying in the movie, it's the best fucking part of the movie, and it's still a vision. And I'm like, fuck you. That scene was awesome. And then your last fight with the swords, and he's like, surrender. I got you. And they're like, no, this fight is till death. And she's like, the boy never killed before. I'm like, fucking shut up, Jessica. Like, fuck, man.
You are such a hater.
No, I'm not a hater.
You need to read the fucking book.
I'm not reading the book. Fuck you. Like if you made the movie for me to then make me to read the book, no. Like the reason I don't read is because I watch movies.
All right. Moving on. Any favorite
What-
moments in the movie?
No, like what's your take on the plot? Since you read the book, give me like does and be realistic. Like if you did not read the book, okay, you watch this movie. Do you see that there's a lot of things missing that for you to make the whole picture for the first half?
There is, and that's where, and this is where the director, his style comes in play. So, like in any other world, in any other movie, this type of movie will have a explanation of who is who in some way in the dialogue form. You know, we saw it. We saw in the first Star Wars in 1977, 1977. Right when the first Star Wars came out, it was what it's now known as Episode 4. Nobody knew what they're watching, but in some sort of dialogue, they explain that you got the rebels, you have the dark side, you got Darth Vader. He's bad. You got Luke Skywalker, right? And you get the plot. Where Denis Villeneuve, in a way, maybe he fails, is that he doesn't give the audience that. He continues his story, and he just implants little cues, like visual cues. And one big example is there is a scene in the movie that Paul he's in his bedroom or chambers, whatever you want to call it, and he's listening to like let's say like an audiobook that it's explaining to him like the world of Arrakis and the spices and all that stuff, and at the same time he's reading a book, and there's an image of the Fremen, which is the Iraqi tribe that lives beneath the sand. That's just a visual cue. That's just Denis Villeneuve giving you like, hey, this is what the Fremen are, okay? And other than that, you're just listening to the same audiobook that Paul is listening to. And he does that throughout the entire movie. So I do get your point. I do get that if you haven't read the book, you see this movie for the first time, you are going to feel lost. But the way that the director films this movie is that at some point you catch up with what you're watching, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. All right? I believe this movie is meant to be seen at least 2 times more after you've seen it the first time. Like you mentioned, to catch the details, to go deeper into the world. I believe this movie, for those who have never heard about Dune or seen or read the book, it's a movie that's going to make you go into online, Google, or look up Wikipedia and read about Dune, or download a compendium of the book, or Dune for Dummies, and catch up with everything you see. I believe that. So I agree to your point. For those who have never read the book or don't know what Dune was, or have never seen 1984 versions of David Lynch Dune, yeah, you're gonna feel lost probably for the first hour and a half of the movie. Now, for those who have read the book, it is satisfactory. I enjoy the plot. I knew what was going to happen. I haven't finished reading the book, but where I stopped reading the book to watch this movie, it's exactly where the movie cuts off for me. So everything that I was watching, I was like, oh, okay, that does happen in the book. I'm like, ooh, they should have elaborated a little bit more, because I, as a viewer, there were moments in the movie that I was like, ooh, they missed something important there, and I mentioned it earlier, the character of Thufir Hawat, he plays a larger role in the book. He suspects that Lady Jessica is a traitor, right? Clouding his judgment to avoid him seeing whenever the shields get down by Dr. Ju, and when the Harkonnens start invading, because he is so focused on convincing Lady Jessica to confess that he ignores everything that's happening behind him. That is never played out in the movie. They just, like you mentioned, they just show that Dr. Ju's the one betraying them, and he lowers the defense system. So yeah, I get everything they're saying. That is my plot analysis. Like, it's a movie that's going to make you like, I don't know what I just saw, but I am intrigued with this world that I need to read more about it. And I think that this is why this movie can be considered one of the best sci-fi movies of this decade. Okay, this decade that started this year.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 2021. This is a new decade.
Let me see when the Blade Runner was made. Was it?
Blade Runner was made in 2017.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll give you this decade. Okay.
Okay.
Go.
Because there is so much characters, there's so much world that you can dig out of this Dune world, that you can create anything with it. But yeah, that is my analysis. I enjoyed the movie. My wife liked it too. She did feel lost. I asked her, she asked, like, yeah, I was lost, but eventually I caught up and I enjoyed what I was watching. Like you mentioned before, it is a spectacle. It is a beautiful movie to see. Now, if you're following the plot and trying to catch up what all this pretty pictures that Villeneuve has given you, you're going to find yourself probably lost. And that's what you were feeling.
Yeah, I felt like an unwelcome child in a birthday party.
But I believe that's what the director wanted to do also, is that
he did not make this movie for us. He made it for himself. Like, come on. Like,
I mean, that's what every passion project is,
well,
you know?
that's the same. Like, listen, to me, this movie is the same thing that Quentin Tarantino did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, it felt like I was standing out there watching somebody else, like, fucking joyride. Like, not my cup of tea, you know? All right, favorite scenes. What's your favorite? What is your favorite scene? Because there's so many to choose from. But if you
my favorite scene is when they introduce the Baron for the first time. And I saw this video on YouTube, and I now can't unsee it. The way that Stellan Skarsgård portrays the Baron reminded me of Marlon Brando's Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
It's how he brings that character. Like, it's line. He doesn't have that many lines in the movie, but the lines that he delivers just makes you know that this guy means business and he's the bad guy. And that scene when he has that anti-gravity thing and he lifts himself up, and you see this very tall robe, like his legs are being covered by the robe, but like you can see he empowers fear. And you see that wide-angle shot, that darkness around him. I love that scene. I think that's one of my favorite scenes when they introduce the Baron Harkonnen, portrayed by Stellan Skarsgård, that's one of the scenes right there. That's part of that scene that I'm describing.
Yeah, he's a menace here. He's very chilling.
Yeah.
But like I feel like him and the priestess or the main witch, like they just make like a great couple of the power couple of destroying the world. Like I love that about it, but it was not tapped in, so whatever.
Well, what's your favorite scene?
I mean, I already mentioned it. It's a scene when Paul gets the test. Like that just
okay, yeah, the fear test, yeah.
The way it's filmed, the way how much he emphasized like how like she uses the voice and you don't, because it's a pretty long distance from the door to the chair, but the way that they cut it, it's kind of like him going into this trance, like losing the space and time, where it's kind of opposite, that his mind is predicted to like be the one who is not going to be infected by time and space, who can travel beyond. Like that's the beauty and the power of the one. So here he's like he's completely in reverse and opposite of what his power is, where he gets voiced and then he kind of like glides through the this space which we don't see, which it's like it happens with a like very clever editing. And now he's like jumps on, drops to his knees, and he's like, "How dare you to use voice on me?" And that entire like power struggle between her testing him, and then at the end him like winning the test, and
Yeah.
dramatic music kicks in, and the visuals are spectacular. And they Villeneuve, like when I watched an interview, he said he didn't want to use like CGI fire, but he wanted you to understand that there's like his hand is like literally burning in that box. And then they showed like the hand, which is actually burned, and the way it was designed, it was like the piece of wood with like the features of the human's hand like burning, and like that. I felt like the visuals, the music, the acting, like Timothée Chalamet, like he's like fantastic in that like depiction of actual pain and struggle with it, and then overcoming pain to face his like.
Yeah, that's a good scene. It's the color palette. Actually, I can play that. I got a TV spot that actually portrays that scene. Since you're talking about it, let me go right there.
And like the camera movement when she puts the
needle, the poison needle,
needle. Yeah, and it's just like the actress has such a strong features and such a strong voice as an actress, and then you put that veil at top of her, and she's like more villainous that way, and she's more like scarier. I mean, that's Villeneuve was a fucking craftsman.
He is, he is.
It's like I can't shit on this movie, but like still going to.
You probably have to say that it will probably be your least favorite from him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's like his least favorite is still better than fucking thousands of movies that they've made like out there. Yeah. So like, but my beef is not that he made this. My beef is that he did. Like he should have made something else with this skill level.
Something to appease you.
Yes. Maybe that like something like Blade Runner. Like majority of the people didn't like it, but I fucking loved it.
I love Blade Runner.
But a lot of people are like, oh, we don't feel it, and this like everybody loves it, and I don't. So it's like it's the opposite. I'm like, why, God? Why do you punish me? I wanted to love it. I wanted to like it. I wanted to praise it.
You got any least favorite moment in the movie, or besides saying the entire movie?
The entire movie like, shouldn't be fucking made. No, like my least favorite, like the scenes with Ferguson. I did not find her good in this. I could not get in. I could not buy into like she's this powerful witch, but she's like just there like.
I got you. All right. I mean, at least my least favorite moment, I think it's when Lady Jessica and Paul are pretty much in the desert at night, and they're like beneath the sand. That scene dragged a little bit too much for my taste.
Yeah, and it didn't add anything to it.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
Don't fucking watch this movie so they don't make the second one.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen,
be Team Russian. Boycott Dune 2021.
Yeah, go watch Till Death on Netflix. Promote Megan Fox's career.
I mean, she killed her career herself. Like,
Machine Gun Kelly.
She got Machine Gun Kelly, that's for sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are still with us,
thank you.
The Russian doesn't like the movie. I enjoyed it. Be a judge for yourself. Give it a watch if it's something that it's in your realm. It is a sci-fi movie, sci-fantasy, I would say. It's not a movie that would appeal to everybody out there. It's a very unique movie, to put in some words. Give it a shot. It has a great cast. The director is amazing. He has a great track record, and I mean, again, for me personally, this movie has not failed based on what I've seen from him. I encourage you to watch any other films from him, including Sicario, Arrival, Prisoners, which is amazing. I think Prisoners might be his most underrated one.
Yeah. Enemy,
And
Blade Runner.
Enemy is actually his lowest rated movie in Rotten Tomatoes, and it's only a 72% fresh.
It's still better than some of the rating that.
And then Arrival is just amazing storytelling with a great twist. So I recommend you guys watch any work from Villeneuve. If you have seen his movies, Sicario is probably one of his most popular ones besides Blade Runner, because of the reputation that Sicario has built up through the years. Go check out Dune. It's available in theaters right now. It's also on HBO Max until November 21st. And then after that, they'll take it away for a while, and then they'll bring it back a couple of months afterwards, like they do with every other movie. So give it a shot. Let us know if you like it, dislike it. Just let us know. So before we go and wrap up, remember that our latest episode is up on our YouTube channel. Last week's episode where we discussed Midsummer, starring Florence Pugh, in our horror movie selection. And then this is pretty much the last movie for October, and this was a special movie because we did a new movie. But next week we're going to do a movie that I picked under the movie director category, and it's Michael Bay's The Island.
Yeah, the Michael Bay's highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes is not scored at 72.
And a reason I picked this movie is I out of everything that Michael Bay has done, this is probably, I believe, the most underrated film he has in his filmography. And I really, really love this movie, and I am excited to talk about it with all of you next week. We should be back next Monday around the same time. All right. So thank you all for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to all of our social media platforms, that MovieByte Podcast. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. Follow us on your favorite podcast station, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, whichever you use. We're also available there. If you're on the go and don't want to watch us because you don't want to watch our faces, you can listen to us. And again, thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for supporting us every week here. We do this for fun, but at the same time, we do enjoy having you guys around and live comment with us. So go watch Dune. Let us know how it is. If you like the Russians' take on it, let him know. If you disliked his take, let him know also. He'll take the fall. In the meantime, he'll probably go watch Till Death Now when we finish. And until then,
I'll see you. Gravity, back to back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.